but many of us decided that we were going to sign up because of him. And I truly believe it's because he had so much charisma in our community, many of us wanted to try and make a difference. So that would be an example of attaching yourself to something that you think is really excellent. The next P is politeness. And this one is something that we always tell our students whenever they go for an interview. Sometimes our students go in there and they think, well, I'm a graduate student, I have a degree, and you need me in this job. And so they go into a job interview and they're not treating the secretary very nicely because they don't want to wait. They have an appointment at noon and it's 12:05 and they've been waiting. So they're very nasty to the receptionist. Well, as soon as they go in with the interviewer, they become very nice and so polite, and we think we really want this person. Then we go talk to the secretary. So how was that person in the waiting room? Awful, awful person. You would never want them here. So when we think about politeness, it's the whole chain all the way down to people that we wouldn't normally think of. The people that we would normally not think of as having a lot of power sometimes do. So this goes back to our secretary may not be an authority figure, but she has a lot of respect in our agency. So whatever she says will go very, very far. The politeness factor is a little bit like the golden rule. Does anyone know what that is? Treat others as how you would like to be treated. But it actually goes a little bit beyond that, because some people don't really care how people treat them. They're very objective, and it doesn't matter to them if they are greeted with a bow or a salutation. So sometimes it goes beyond what we think we would need. It's extending ourselves to what would make this person feel very, very special. So can you think of a time where you didn't necessarily try and treat someone very, very well, but you did just because you were trying to be nice, and it ended up working out well for you? Please share. Con tàu này sai. That's an excellent example. Thank you very much for sharing. I bet if every one of us thought about a time where you weren't trying to get something from someone else, you were just being nice, and suddenly they give you samples or cookies or they help you with your luggage. So it goes a very long way. Sometimes what I do is if I know I'm going to be traveling many, many legs, I will throw some samples of where I'm traveling to or from, just to slip to the person behind the counter. It's something that I don't do intentionally trying to get an upgrade, but sometimes people will be very grateful. They'll do things like, let me see if we have an emergency exit or something of that sort. So that's a little travel tip. People really like it when you give them small souvenirs. They're not allowed to accept bribes. You can't give them too much though. Okay, I'm going to move on because the 4 Ps is the starting point. It just helps us to think about one way of being with people. This is an Italian name that I don't really know how to pronounce. I want to say Cialdini. Cialdini thought of 6 weapons of influence. And this is very interesting because when you think about it, it's an arsenal of things that you can draw upon at any given point in time to get people to do what you want them to do. I'm going to go through each one of them, starting with reciprocity. Reciprocity is an interesting concept. I have a friend that has a lot of social charisma. He calls a dinner and everyone will come out. Anyone else in our group calls a dinner, maybe 50% of us come out. And I wonder to myself, what is it about Jimmy? Everyone wants to be around him all the time. He has something that makes people feel very loyal to him. What I figured out was anytime he helps someone out and they say thank you so much, he has this phrase that he says under his breath. as an afterthought. He'll say, I know you would have done the same for me. And it's not always true. Sometimes the things that he does for people, he really goes out of his way. But when he says it out loud, it's almost as if it's true. I have to make myself stop and think, would I have picked you up from LAX 6 a.m. in the morning? But because he said it, it really makes me think, I guess I would. And now that you expect it of me, I might have to. In fact, he does it so subtly, it's never a demand. It's never, you would have done the same for me if I asked you to. He does it like he's throwing away a piece of paper, like, oh, you would have done the same. Not a big deal. So reciprocity is very interesting. People remember when you do an act of kindness for them. An example would be that Ethiopia, we know it's not a very rich country. In fact, they don't have a lot of resources to support their own economy or their own people. However, when Mexico was devastated by an earthquake, they shelled out whatever they could to give to Mexico. Can anyone guess why? Well, as always with international relationships, Mexico at one point in time, a very long time ago, had given some resources to Ethiopia as a goodwill gesture. And so this was probably the smartest move that they had made, because unbeknownst to them, Ethiopia would be one of their allies later on. The same thing happens when people sign up for loyalty programs. So does anyone here belong to like a supermarket club where you get discounts? Okay, so I recently moved to Pasadena, and I had always gone to the same supermarkets over and over, but I got these coupons from Ralph's, and they are offering me a free dozen eggs, a dozen roses. I think I got some orange juice. Right? So that loyalty program is actually very powerful, because I feel like I am getting all this free stuff from them. The least I could do is 感到朋友. So once in a while I will go to Ralph's, even though it's out of my way. It's actually not on my way to work at all. But because they send me these coupons once in a while, I feel so obligated to go to them. But it makes me happy going to them, because I feel like they have a special connection with me. They gave me roses. And the same thing happens when you get free samples. Does anyone go shopping at the mall? I rarely do, because I always feel like I'm not doing myself a service when I pay retail prices. I'm very Taiwanese, I like to save my money. Well, when I go to the mall, I really try and avoid the carts in the middle of the stores, because what do? They say, ma'am, slow down. You have such a beautiful hand. I'd like to rub some lotion on you. The minute they rub lotion on me, I'm going to walk away with 5 bottles. So I really try not to let them spray perfume at me or put lotion on me. Those free samples, it's a psychological game. I give you a little bit. Even if you don't like the way it smells, you're going to feel a little bit like we have some sort of a relationship. No, okay, I will do something for you too. This is oh, the reciprocity slide. This is my brother's dog. She's very cute, and she's so dear because we rescued her when she was a little bit more than a puppy. But since then, my brother has 2 boys, so she doesn't get as much attention as she used to. But God bless her, she's very loyal. No matter what, she still waits before she can eat. She waits by the door. Everything short of putting the leash in her mouth, she'll wait to be walked. And so this is a little bit of the same concept, where if you can give someone the perception that you could be loyal to them, regardless of whether they really would have done something for you before, they suddenly feel indebted to you. It's a very strange psychological game, because normally you might have done something anyway, but if something else comes up, you'll do that instead. This way, if you have some sort of a loyalty guanhe with someone else, they're going to try much, much harder. So I'm willing to bet that those phone calls made a big difference, because you probably got asked, how's your daughter? How's your partner? How's your business? And when you feel that someone cares about you, you're going to care about what matters to them as well. Okay. Another factor that Cialdini thinks about and writes about is commitment and consistency. This is a very interesting concept. When we go shopping for cars at dealerships, they know this idea and they actually exploit us because people tend to throw good money after bad. Has anyone heard that phrase before? So I already think in my mind, oh, this happened to me. I no longer buy vacations through the mail because I realize when those mailers say you can get a free cruise, it's never free. There's taxes that come on board, there's fees that come on board, there's suddenly all these luxury taxes that they didn't talk about. And before I know it, I'm paying a lot for a free cruise because the concept is that I've already committed to something. I've already imagined myself on an island sipping a refreshment and having conversations with someone important to me. I've already committed to this idea. So when they come back and say, oh, did we forget to tell you that there's $150, just a small fee? Then I'm likely to say, well, $150 is not so bad. I'll give you my credit card. They might come back and say, oh, did we forget to tell you that we have to tax you for that $150? And pretty soon, before I know it, it would have been cheaper for me to go to AAA or online. So car salesmen know this idea too. I can decide I am only going to pay this much for this car. I've done my research. I have gone to AAA and I've looked at everything. I've gone to Costco. I've compared all my prices. And I know that this is the invoice price and I'm not going to pay a penny more than this. And I go into the car dealership. A salesman approaches me. He lets me take it for a test drive. I've really fallen in love with this car. And in my mind, I've already decided when I go to work, they're going to say, wow, that's a very nice car that you have. I've already decided when I go to this restaurant that I always go to, they're going to say, oh, you got something different. So I've already pictured myself doing this. Suddenly, the salesman goes behind the door to speak with his manager. And we all know it's like the Wizard of Oz. Sometimes that manager doesn't really exist. They're on a coffee break. But you know that when they come back and they say, I really wanted to give it to you for that price, my manager won't let me. So I don't know, has this ever happened to anyone before? Yeah. Chances are those of you that said yes, many of you probably still purchased the car anyway. Why is that? It's because of this concept that once you commit to something and you've already envisioned yourself in this car or on that vacation, you're going to see that it's fulfilled anyway, even if it's not how you originally envisioned it. People who are in the sales business call this the foot in the door technique. So if I just get you to talk to me and you open your door, I'm going to sell you a vacuum cleaner. Because if you're letting me through your door, it means I can demonstrate to you how great my vacuum cleaner works. So as soon as you get someone to let you in a little bit, you can really take them home the whole way. So I want you to think about a little exercise. When has this happened to you? When have you agreed to something that you normally would not have because you already decided that this was going to happen? Is anyone willing to share their experience? Yeah? Do you want to share? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jinkamsha that you shared, because sometimes when we walk away, sometimes we feel good about it and sometimes we say, hey, what happened? Like I get home and I say,